everybody, welcome to Talk It Out. I'm Xinjiang. So today we're going to talk about Xinjiang. So personally, I've visited Xinjiang many times and it's really an interesting, amazing place. No matter it's the diverse cultures, amazing people and the sceneries. But today it's not about my stories. Today I have two special guests joining me, going to share with us their stories with Xinjiang. My first guest is Sabira Samat. She's a Uyghur influencer. You probably already watched her vlogs from Xinjiang Stories by Guli. So Sabira, tell us more about yourself.
Okay, hi, my name is Sabira Samat. I was born in Xinjiang. I live in Xinjiang. Yeah, and I am also a video blogger. I shoot some video with my sister about our daily lives and some beautiful scenery and like so many mouth-watering cuisine in Xinjiang.
Hello everyone, we are Uyghur sisters from Xinjiang.
Yeah, I hope you can check out my channel. Thank you. Yaşымсылам ныңсным Sabira Samat мен Xinjiangda туылып, Xinjiangda чоң болдым. Азырып каткан ишим шу мау менин өзүмнүн турмушуну, өзүм көргөн чырайлык манзарларны, жеген тамакларны, ушу фильм тартып, торго yollап чыгарып атам. Менин мау шоппингларымды чыгарып көргөнсүлөр, рахмат.
Thank you. A lot of people, especially outside of China, probably only know them from recent vlogs published on YouTube and Twitter, but actually they've been famous. They've been like big influencers in China for quite a long time. They have 1.8 million followers on Douyin. So, and you normally make vlogs with your friend. Her name is Hersida Ablikin. Am I pronouncing that right? Correct me if I'm pronouncing her name wrong.
It's Khurshida Ablikim. Yeah.
I'm gonna introduce my next guest. I'm sure you definitely know him. He is a Canadian vlogger and a businessman based in Shenzhen. Daniel, tell our audiences more about yourself.
Hi, yeah, good to be here. Thanks for inviting me on. So, yeah, I've been here in Shenzhen, in China, for 12 years, 13 years now, I think. And I do some videos online, mostly kind of political and stuff like that. Not so many travel vlogs or things like that. But yeah, recently went to Xinjiang also. You know, I've had friends from Xinjiang and I've only heard about it from them. But decided to go and kind of take a look myself, especially with how much in the spotlight it is these days. It only makes sense because it was a short flight. Well, not really short flight, but just a flight away. So
like, how do you feel about this trip this time?
Yeah, I mean, it was really good. You know, it was. I went with a little bit of a weird kind of a frame of mind because I went there. Obviously, everybody knows why if people would be interested to go to Xinjiang now at this point, and that is because of all the international media attention on it. Now, because I know people from Xinjiang and I've looked into this topic a lot, I already know that the story of Xinjiang is very far off from what the Western media says. But I still wanted to go there with an unbiased view, so I went there. Kind of like I reached out to some anti-China people, a bunch of them. One of them you could say is probably one of the top 10 loudest voices, our most prominent voices on the Xinjiang narrative. I'm not going to mention who it is because I said we'd keep our conversations private. But what I did was I asked them, I said, you tell me, what would you look for? What would you be asking? Where would you be going if I, you know, if it was you going? And so I went there with that frame of mind, asked the questions that they wanted to ask, looked for the things that they said to look for. So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, so when you were in Kashgar, at some point you were a little bit angry. What happened?
So here's the progress. So, you know, when I reached out to those anti-China guys and I said that, you know, what should I be looking for and things like this, they gave me coordinates, they gave me, you know, stuff to ask, stuff to look for. And originally, it's a very interesting way to approach it because I believe that anybody on any topic, you should approach a topic not only with a willingness to be proven wrong, but actually going out of your way to try to prove your own position wrong. So based on all the information I've gathered so far and my friends that I have from Xinjiang, I don't believe the Western narrative, but I wanted to go there with some of these questions in mind. And it was an interesting way to do it, to go in there with somebody else's perspective in mind. Then it kind of eventually got to a point where I started getting kind of burnt out and I started feeling a little bit like an idiot. You know, when you go to places like this looking for a genocide, you start feeling like an idiot. I'll give you like one of the best examples of that is one of the things they said to do is they said, go to a bookstore, go to the children's section and look for children's Uyghur books. You'll find, especially in Kashgar, they're gone. Not allowed to have children's Uyghur books anymore. So, okay, whatever. I chose a random bookstore. I went there. And not only were there many, many Uyghur children books, in the grown-up section, there was even a Uyghur translation of Henry Kissinger's book, believe it or not. And English or simplified Chinese children's books, I had to go up to the second floor in some back corner to find it. So I thought, okay, you know what? I didn't know if I was going to post the video of the Uyghur books yet or not at that point, but I wanted to record a video to send to this guy who said, I won't find it. So I started recording the video, and then the Uyghur staff in the bookstore started yelling at me, saying, "No, you can't do this. You're not allowed to film." And I said, "Oh, 这个是不是一个政府的规定? Is this some sort of a government rule?" And they said, "No, this is just our store policy. We don't want our competition seeing our layout and the books that we have and all the details." And then I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "But okay, listen, I'm not from Kashgar. There's just this rumor overseas that children's Uyghur books aren't allowed, and I just want to prove that they're wrong." And they kind of looked at each other like, "Oh, okay, sure, whatever." You know, it was kind of like a whatever, buddy. You foreigners are really weird. That's the feeling I got. That's why I started feeling like an idiot. And so I'm like, okay, thank you. And I started filming it. But you really start feeling like an idiot doing that. But eventually. So that's the progression. It's first very interesting to go in with a different perspective in mind, graduated to feeling like an idiot, and then graduated to feeling angry. I got angry towards the end of it because when you start meeting people and you start realizing how many Uyghur people have their own plots of land, they grow their own cotton. They either pick it themselves or they pay somebody to come in and do that, or the villages, they help each other out at different stages. It's a very, very integral part of their economy. When you hear stories from women who were given opportunities to work and it elevated their status in their family, particularly if they were in an abusive relationship, which could happen anywhere in the world, but it elevated their status in the family where they were able to support themselves, or if ever, unfortunately, a couple had to separate, they'd still have a way of supporting themselves. It was a real way of liberating them. And when you look at the sanctions that the U.S. is putting in place, you realize that this is not about helping the Uyghur people. This is a specific attempt to undermine all the progress that was made in Xinjiang for obvious reasons. I mean, so you look at the ETIM delisting. They delisted ETIM as a terrorist organization. There's two reasons for that. One, they can start fundraising, and two, they can start recruiting. In a situation of poverty, recruitment is far easier. This has been seen all over the world. You know, when Al Qaeda was trying to recruit from Iraq, after the U.S. destabilized Iraq, it was so much easier for them to recruit people, especially, and it was a dream come true for them because there were a lot of Iraqi security forces and things like that were out of work. So that they could also get people who were trained militarily. And when you look at what sanctions do, American sanctions do around the world, they almost always cause suffering. And actually, there's a book called The Art of Sanctions by a guy named Richard Nephew. And he admitted in an interview that sanctions were designed basically to destroy economies, and specifically mentioned that it's designed to push up unemployment. Richard now works for President Biden. They know exactly what sanctions do. They know exactly what they're trying to do in Xinjiang. They are here to bring suffering. They are here to capitalize on previous social unrest that was fixed through poverty alleviation programs and giving people opportunities to be productive in their life, for the purposes of restoring unrest here. And that's part of their strategy. It's, it's exactly why they're spending $300 million a year on propaganda against China's Belt and Road Initiative. They want to destroy China. And Uyghurs are in the crosshairs right now. Uyghurs are the target of their campaign to make a group of people suffer to accomplish their geopolitical interests. So yes, I started getting angry. I started getting angry at this. I can't believe this. I made lots of great friends in Xinjiang, amazing people, very welcoming, and such warm people. Like I remember I went to somebody's house and they had this spread of food out on the table. And I don't know if Sabira, your family does this too. Like they have these like different nuts and breads and stuff like that, and they cover it.
Yeah, we have it. Yeah.
Yeah, so they cover it over the table, and when they have guests, they uncover it, or they even use it for themselves too. Like sometimes they'll just have breakfast from it or something like that and refill it. And I had a Uyghur friend with me named Kate, and I asked her, I said, "Is this like just for us? Like he prepared this all for us?" And she says, "No. We keep it on the table." She said, "But Uyghur hospitality is very famous." She said, "We have a saying." She says, if somebody stranger comes over and comes to your house, you treat them to like food and drinks and whatever. You treat them like really, really well, and then maybe on the third day you'll ask him, "By the way, what's your name?" you know and then they'll be like, "Oh, this I was looking for this person. Oh, no, you wanted to go to the neighbor's house, so he's down there." It's like so, such an amazing culture, such a warm people, such a amazing progress that has been made in poverty alleviation and uplifting the lives of many, that is now trying to be undermined by America. And then it makes it equally frustrating that people are falling for this. People are falling for this garbage. And then when voices like yours come out, Sabira, they just try to shut you down.
We saw locals in Xinjiang celebrating the end of Ramadan, the Eid. So did you celebrate with your friend, with your family? How would you normally celebrate this holiday?
对，我今年是没有办法和他们一起庆祝的，但是往年是每年都会一起庆祝，就是和我父母和我的朋友，然后我妈妈会做，就是我们民族传统的就是馓子，然后我们再做一些像是手抓肉，然后像我们哈密，我们家是哈密的嘛，还会做焖饼子，对，然后还有就是我爸妈的同事，他们每一年都会来我们家去跟我们一起庆祝这个节日，对，大家就过得非常愉快。
And there's some special food they're gonna cook during this special holiday, right? So one is 馓子. In Mandarin, it's 馓子, but like how to call it in Uyghur?
桑子。
松子.
So I think having a big feast with all your family, close families, close friends is very important to celebrate this holiday, right?
Yeah, right.
This is interesting because Daniel, do you remember? Have you seen that when the clip of crowds of people dancing in front of mosques
celebrating Eid? And Radio Free Asia, at that, there are some anti-China people saying, "Wow, look at that!"
Yeah, that was.
There's a source telling me they were forced to dance.
Oh, it was crazy. There's videos going back to 1979 from a Japanese documentary showing that this is how they've always celebrated in front of the mosques. And then, for the longest time we were being told, the culture is being eradicated and they're not allowed to practice their cultural, rituals and traditions because they're trying to get rid of Uyghur culture. And now the story apparently from Radio Free Asia is people are being paid to dance in front of the mosque. It was the most, I was like, what, are you serious? Like, is this supposed to be the Onion News Network or like what's going on here? I'm interested to hear from Sabira what her reaction is to that, to a Western news outlet saying that Uyghurs were paid to dance in front of the mosque to put on a show for the international audiences.
Yeah, I think it's definitely wrong. Why 他们为什么要 like pay us? Why? Yeah, I just can't believe how they can say things like this. Yeah.
So you guys were not forced to dance to celebrate?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. 对，我们开心的时候会跳舞。如果你给我们钱，让我们逼着我们去跳，那肯定大家脸上的表情也不会那么的自然，那么的真实。
Yeah, that'd be a good deal though, eh? Because everybody loves to dance there. So if somebody was willing to also pay you to do it, I think we should reach out to that news outlet and say, hey, where can we collect our checks? Because
like dancing scene is basically very like crucial elements in their culture. So I remember like Daniel, before you told me like why you guys publish so many videos of Uyghurs dancing.
I used to make fun of it, and it's like that's a nice part of the culture, and it's good to show. So I can understand why somebody would be attracted to filming that, but still, at the same time, I'm like, is there really this much dancing going on? Like you guys are painting it out to be like you're gonna walk into this Bollywood film or something like that. But then when I was in Kashgar, it's like people really like to dance. When I was in the hotel, even the cleaning staff of our hotel during their break, always during the same time. I can't remember when it was, but 2 o'clock or something like that. They found a little place to gather together, and they had a speaker. They put the music on, and they started dancing. They weren't dancing for anybody. They were just dancing themselves. As a matter of fact, when I took my camera out, my phone out to record them, they started kind of like looking a bit shy, like, oh, we're not really professional dancers or anything like that. But Sabira, I think people really like to dance in Xinjiang, don't they?
Yeah, that's true. Like I like dance too. My parents, we all like dance. Yeah, we dance a lot actually. Yeah.
Last year we visited Tibet, and there's one park in Lhasa. In the morning, crowds of people went to the park to dance. I know the square dance is very important in China. In Beijing, I saw grandpas dancing, but I think in Tibet, that's the largest scale I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. I posted some videos of that when we came back on my Twitter and stuff like that, and I found it interesting because everywhere else in China, like Jiangxi or Guangdong, all these places, everybody goes out in the nighttime. All the old people go out at nighttime to dance. But there in Tibet, it was in the morning, and I didn't really catch on to it. It's obvious now that somebody mentioned it when they replied to me on Twitter. They said that it's because that's the most comfortable time of the day. Like at nighttime, it gets pretty cold in Tibet at those altitudes. But yeah, everywhere does their dancing, but the minority dances are way more interesting though.
Yeah. I think if you actually been to China, live in China, like dancing in the open in crowds is quite common in every city.
Then I want to ask some questions about your experience, your stories in school. So when you're in school, what language do you use? What do you do? How do you present
We
that?
use Mandarin because I'm in a Han school. Yeah, we have Uyghur school and Han school, and my parents chose me to let me to go to the Han school. Yeah, so we use Mandarin.
How come? How come your parents chose to send you to Han school?
Yeah, because they want me have more opportunity or to get a good work or have go to the good college. 汉语的用处可能还是要更多一点。所以他们就希望我以后会有更好的机会去上更好的大学，有更好的工作机会，像这样子。对。
More opportunities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I actually have, if you don't mind, Jingjing, I have a curiosity question.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
I know that ethnic minorities, they get more points to go into university more easily. If you went to a Han Chinese school, do you still get those extra points, or you don't?
Yes, I got these extra points.
How many points? How many points did you get?
我当时我是2014年参加的高考，我们当时是加50分。对。
50分
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah.
I thought 5 points because
No.
oh my because for ethnic minority kids, when they take the college entrance exams, they can get extra points, so they will have more chances to go to better universities. I think it's also based on which ethnic group you are from, based on the population.
Yeah.
Different points, right?
Yes.
Some ethnic groups probably get 5 or 10 points. I heard.
Yeah.
But
That's
50
true.
points.
Oh, yeah.
Impressive, because that's gonna make a lot of difference.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
Obviously, in the Uyghur school, you get an opportunity to learn more Uyghur language, Uyghur script and stuff like that. So in the Han school, because you don't have the Uyghur curriculum, how do you make sure that you learn enough Uyghur and you learn to read and write it? Like, how do you have to do that? How did you manage to do that then?
Like my parents, I use Uyghur communicate with my parents and my friends, and if they have time, they will taught me to learn the Uyghur, read and write. Yeah.
If you were to compare your Uyghur level then to someone the same age as you who went to a Uyghur school, is there a big difference then? Are they a lot better than you, or it's almost the same?
I think how to say that? Yeah, 他们可能会说一些更专业的词语，像比如说他们会用维语学数学呀、科学这种学科，这些学科的维语，我可能对我来说会难。
The more kind of technical, professional words and stuff like that from courses like that.
Mandarin is the national language in China, in the West or some Western media, they were kind of saying China is forcing ethnic minorities to learn Han language or Mandarin and abolish their own languages. But actually, it's totally not the case because Mandarin is the national language. Like, imagine we have 56 different ethnic groups, and in total we have 80 different languages. A lot of languages don't even have written languages, only like spoken languages. So how do you communicate with such a diverse population? So I think Mandarin, that's important. We have a common language, which is Mandarin.
Yeah, what's interesting is one of my friends from Xinjiang, of Kazakh ethnic minority, he was mentioning that he was, because he can compare life in China versus life in Kazakhstan. He has some family that ended up migrating there. They were encouraging people to go back, and they'd give them some, like a little piece of land in the village areas or something like that. So he has a very easy way to compare the two different sides. And what was interesting is in the beginning, when China was just opening up, if he went over to Kazakhstan when he was a kid, it was like, wow, this place is amazing. Like, this is the first time he saw a Snickers bar. He went to a place like a playground place called Fantasy World, and he's like, wow, this is the greatest place. But now it's like reverse. When he goes to Kazakhstan, it's like all of his friends are looking at him having the latest technology, latest phones and stuff like that. And it's completely kind of flipped. But what he said was one thing that they don't suffer from. The problem is that they all kind of have a common language, and they have a lot of ethnic minority groups too. I think he said something like 120. But during Soviet rule, the language was more strictly enforced. And he said that now, though, everybody can communicate. They have a common language to communicate with each other, which is really important for their unity, for the ability to solve conflicts between each other and things like that. And you look at Indonesia also. They same thing, was it 100 plus years ago, they decided to create a national language also to unite, I think it was even more, 300 ethnic minority groups, a common language for the country. And then it's kind of very similar to China, where, okay, right, we have a common language to communicate with each other, but when you go back home and you're speaking to your family and friends, you still use your local dialect. I think when people are looking at this at China, they're trying to make an issue out of something that's happened in so many other places, and that is really, really essential for unity and for everybody to be able to participate in the economy on a level playing field. One of my friends, Carl Zha, who's living in Indonesia, in Bali, he said this when I told him about that example, and I asked him about it, the Indonesia thing. He says, yeah, actually that's kind of a good point too, because he says when you think about it, Mandarin, the chosen language, was also a modified version of a Beijing dialect, and whereas in Indonesia, what they chose was a modified version of Malay. So there's so many parallels too, but nobody's making an issue out of that there, because I guess right now China's the target, so they're kind of grasping at anything they possibly can.
I mean, it's interesting. They make huge fuss about it. Like China is letting everyone learn a common language. Why are they not talking about the whole world is learning English? Does that mean all our culture is being washed away? It's hypocrisy. Like, the reason we learn English is that also means we can communicate with people from everywhere, to have more opportunities to go everywhere. So I think it's the same for a lot of ethnic minorities to like achieve a better advanced skill of Mandarin.
Saw in the one of the Uyghur schools in the classroom, they had an English class. They were learning English.
Yeah.
And you're right. I really don't think anybody would take a look at that and say, "Oh no, they're learning English. This is a dilution of culture." Now, if you show them the Mandarin language class, they're reciting something in Mandarin from a book. That same person might say, "Oh no, that's the wrong one." We can make some exceptions for English, but come on. Not Mandarin.
Yeah. I remember last year I visited Guangxi and Yunnan, because those are the two provinces that have a lot of ethnic minorities, like probably 30 to 40. So I remember one village in Yunnan, it's mainly, the majority is Baizu, Bai ethnic minority. They speak in different language, but everywhere I go, I saw Han characters writing on the wall. So for a second, I kind of feeling suspicious about it. So why these Baizu are all writing Han, simplified Han Chinese characters on their walls? Why are they being like their culture, their language being taken away? And then I talk to locals, I realized because Baizu's language only has spoken language. So when they type information, when they write something on the wall, it's in
Mandarin, in the Han Chinese characters. But when they speak, they're still speaking their bad language. Actually, I went to a small village. They have 3 different ethnic groups, but Baizu takes up the 98% of the population. The rest are Yi, Han, and other ethnic minorities. But all the other smaller ethnic groups are able to speak Bai language because they chose to learn the language that's being used by the majority of the people. They can speak their own language, their Yi language, the Han Chinese, the Mandarin, and Bai language. Meanwhile, they're also learning English. So it's really about learning different languages to be able to reach, to connect with as many people as they can. We talk about how you celebrated Eid. So does it mean, do you have a religion?
No, I have no religion. Yeah.
So you're not a Muslim?
No, I'm not Muslim.
Because this is really interesting to me because I was when I visited Edgar Mosque in Kashgar, I asked about this, and I asked about the crowds and stuff like that because there were people going there praying and stuff like that. But one thing I noticed, they were all the older generation, and I said, you know, what's happening? Like, I asked specifically, are there any kind of government things that are kind of trying to discourage people from practicing religion? And he said no. He said that just people are, you know, the society has developed so quickly. Young people have many other things to do. It's just like everywhere else in the world. But he said sometimes for festivals and stuff like that, a lot of Uyghur people will come out to the mosque for the dancing or whatever it is at the end of certain festivals. And I felt like there was a parallel between kind of like a lot of people who are loosely Christian or they have a Christian cultural background. They, you know, may not go to church anymore, but maybe they'll go to church on Christmas. They'll still celebrate Christmas. But I'm curious from your point of view, why is it that more like are a lot of young people your age not really identifying as Muslim anymore? Are there still some, and what are the reasons? What are the reasons that they're, yeah?
Yeah, like some of my friends, they're still Muslim. But I think it's like 就是我们自己的选择吧，因为现在年轻人就是大家都比较很有个性嘛，个性化这个很严重，对。然后像我，like my grandpa, he's the imam actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. 然后像我爸爸妈妈他们开始就慢慢就是上了大学，接受过高等教育啊，之后就开始慢慢就不再信仰宗教，然后到了我这一代，我的同学们可能大部分人也开始就是不信仰宗教，对，这就是还是个人的一个选择，我觉得跟任何人跟政府都没有关系。Yeah.
Just your own choice.
Yeah, it's my own choice.
But there's no like barriers. There's nothing in place that discourages you from it. Like there's no, from a policy point of view.
Oh no, not at all. Yeah, not at all.
Well,
It's just my own choice. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm curious. What about on the other side? So you said your grandfather is an imam.
Yeah.
Is there any suggestions from him ever telling you should really be Muslim or try to convince you to become Muslim?
Oh no, actually not. He passed away when I was a little kid.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. 对，跟他其实跟我外公其实没有很多机会去交流这些东西。
But do you know any people of your age that are Muslims that chose?
Oh yes, I know. Yes, some of my they're living the like small village and they're still my age and they're still Muslim. Yeah.
A lot of people thought Uyghurs are Muslims, but actually no, not all Uyghurs are Muslims. Uyghurs is an ethnic group. The Muslims is related to the religion, so they are not necessarily connected.
Yes.
That's not really I mean, so some of my friends from Xinjiang, ethnic minorities, are also non-Muslim. So it's not very surprising for me to hear that. But at the same time, though, sometimes there's some overlap with, for example, they still don't eat pork, even though they're not Muslim. Is the situation the same for you? And is it just because it's like a cultural thing or something?
Yeah, I think it's the cultural thing, like 就是穆斯林的一些习俗文化和我们这个维吾尔族这些习俗文化，它就是融合到一起，所以我们 就是维吾尔族人，他就是不吃猪肉，然后会过这些古尔邦节、开斋节这样的节日，应该就是属于一个融合吧。对。
Oh,
Okay, yeah.
so you don't eat pork,
Yeah, I don't eat pork. Yeah.
and you also celebrate all those festivals. Like
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting to know.
Yeah.
So when you went to school though, because I would imagine, I don't know if it was the same back then. Like how did if the school had a canteen or something like that? Like how do you? Because then it's not made for your culture, right?
Yeah. When I was in college, we have like Hala canteen for like Uyghur student or Kazakh student or Hui student. Yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me because right now in my office building, we have several canteens across this building, but there's one halal canteen because their food is just so good, and all the employees, either they're Muslims or not, they all chose to go to that canteen. So I remember one day because just that month, I don't know what secret the chef put into the food. The food tastes so good. Everybody was standing in queues, getting a lunchbox from the halal canteen. So until one day, the staff working at the canteen is like, "No, okay, from today on, we're gonna require you guys to show your ID. Let me check your ethnic background. If you are Hui, if you are a Uyghur, if you're like those Muslim ethnic minorities, sure, you can eat here. All the Han, leave. Don't eat at this canteen."
The reports were true then. There is discrimination in China, but just against the majority.
So, Sabila, so when you were in school, you said you're the only Uyghur girl in your class. How did you feel your relationship with your classmates?
Yeah, I think it's nothing different. Me and like my other classmates, 他们都对我非常的怎么说，非常尊重吧，就是也非常尊重我的一些习俗呀、生活习惯。对。然后像是我们过这个节日的时候，我们新疆不是会放假嘛，然后老师会允许我多休息2天。对，班里只有我一个人可以多休。
Yeah. So during those Muslim holidays, you are the only one in the whole class, in the whole school that can have a few days off. Wow.
然后我们就是这2个节日的时候，我们大学的食堂也会提供一些节日特色的，就是我刚跟您说的那个馓子呀，或者是一些比较好吃的特色美食，然后也会把那个食堂用那个艾特莱斯绸给装饰一下，非常好看。
So, like, I'm wondering how come you decided to be an influencer? How come you decided to make vlogs about your daily life?
Oh, cause I see some like the foreign media and some like foreign people they gender and they smear. Well, I think maybe I can represent the normal people in Xinjiang. Yeah, to do this to let them know what a real Xinjiang look like. Yeah, I think this is the.
You started out though before that happened. You were just doing Chinese social media though, right? For a while first.
Yes.
Oh,
in
so,
like TikTok, yeah.
So what was the original? Was it just to give people over the other parts of China to show them your culture? Because what was the original motive?
Yeah, I think it's like there are so many like misunderstanding. Like the people that are out of Xinjiang，他们也会有一些误解，觉得我们新疆很落后呀，或者说我们骑马骑骆驼上学。
That reminds me of a video. There was a famous video of a guy from Chongqing. He flew to taxi. The taxi driver was asking him. He's like, "Oh, where are you from?" I was from China. "Oh, wow, where in China?" "Chongqing." And he says, "Oh, do you have tall buildings like this in Chongqing?" If anybody has seen the Chongqing skyline, it is like one of the most spectacular skylines in the world, especially because it's on different layers on the mountains. And so you can imagine somebody from Chongqing saying, "Oh, man, somebody's really got to show them what Chongqing's really like." So I can imagine it would be similar to your motives. And then did you, because you're involved with and this is, I hope we get a chance to talk about it, because when you expanded onto YouTube, there were people who attacked you. In particular, two guys who I can give you a little bit of a background on them afterwards. But you were because you do this as a passion, but you also do it as a source of income. And so you were planning on expanding onto YouTube. I'm guessing not only was a good opportunity to fight against propaganda, but also to expand your, you know, where your reach. But you're dealing with a is it because I have a friend in Chongqing, actually Chongqing again, we're talking about, is an American guy there. After he grew by a certain amount, he had agencies reach out to him, and he signed up for an agency who helps him to do his promotions or push his videos out and stuff like that. Is that what, you know, happened with you? Like after a certain point, did you sign up with an agency, and is that who was trying to help you expand?
Yeah. They helped me. I have my agency company. Yeah, they helped me to film editing, to like 就是提高我视频的质量，就是帮助我去拍摄呀，因为我一个人其实有些时候也不方便，去编辑，对。但是主要的拍摄还有一些文案的构思什么的，基本上都是我们自己来搞定。
Okay. So I guess the thing that the outside accusations are, what they're talking about, is that this is a government thing or something like that. Does it have anything to do with?
No, not government. Just me and my company. Yeah, no government.
Just a little bit of a side question, because I know my friend who does it, his following grew to a certain amount too. I can't remember if it's over 1 million also followers, but it seems like a lot of people think, oh, social media influencer or something like that, you upload videos, it's just fun. But I think it's pretty high stress too, isn't it? Like, because you've got to continue uploading videos at a certain interval to stay relevant and all things like that. Is it sometimes kind of stressful doing this job?
I think it's okay, cause 就是我现在很享受着 I'm enjoying it， 就是目前这个阶段我还是很享受的，因为真的很想让全世界知道我们新疆的这个美丽的这一面，所以对，就是在很努力的，我觉得并不是一个压力吧，对，应该是个动力。Yeah.
Oh, okay. So maybe stressful is the wrong word, but more kind of like there's a pressure to do, you know, but from your point of view, it sounds like it's worth it because you're doing something you enjoy anyways.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
So it's just them, two girls, and their agent. I think it's very normal because basically all the influencers you saw on Douyin, on TikTok, they all have some agent companies helping them. But it's interesting to see like Winston and Matt, these two people, instantly label them as China government founded propaganda.
You know, I rarely watch their videos. I have a lot of people that once in a while send me highlights saying like, you're not going to believe this. But that's one video I skipped to where they were talking about this, and the logic that they were accusing you, Sabira, of being a government account was really weird. So one of the things they said was that you're followed by Zhao Lijian. I'm followed by Zhao Lijian also. So apparently I probably work for the Chinese government as well. But one of your first tweets I saw was that you tagged Zhao Lijian, and Zhao Lijian follows like 30,000 people. So if you tagged him and they saw, oh, so Uyghur girls on Twitter, of course he would follow you. But if you really were connected to him, why would you have to tag him publicly? You could just, you know, before recording, you could go into the back room and say, hey, Zhao Lijian, can you please follow me on Twitter to boost me? So that was the first. Like, it's like, come on, guys. Like, that was the first weird thing. Then the next thing was that they said that you set your YouTube channel up in such a way that you could monetize it. You know, it says, you see, they did this because this is why they did this, so that they could actually earn ad revenues. And it's like, okay, so this is a massive government sponsored, you know, push to fight against propaganda. This is a government that just put a rover on Mars, and they're concerned about YouTube ad revenues. They have to set the account up specially and go through additional effort to make sure that they can still make YouTube ad revenues on a single channel that hardly has any subscribers yet. It was out of this world. How did you feel like when you saw that? Because there's these two guys, these two white guys from California who are just like attacking you like crazy. Like how did you feel about that?
Yeah, actually, when I started, I predict this. I might be attacked. They might be say I am the government like I'm the one of the government's like spy like something. Yeah, I think it's okay. 我觉得怎么说，其实也一开始也有一点伤心，因为我觉得我就是一个这么普通的一个女生，我想去宣传一下我的家乡，那他们就这样子来攻击我，我有什么错呢？这样子一开始是伤心的，但是后面想过之后就觉得，他们只不过是 anti-China 的这么几
Yeah.
个人而已呀，我觉得
Yeah.
没有很大必要去理会。对，
No, I mean, so these guys, they're pretty vicious when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like anybody, and for some reason, specifically going after ethnic minority groups in different example, there was a recent politician from New Zealand who spoke out against the West's aggression towards China. She's not completely pro-China or anything like that. She said negative things about China, but in this specific case, they were disappointed in her, they said. And she's a Maori. She's from the Maori original kind of indigenous ethnic group in New Zealand. And so they put a picture up of her behind on their green screen, and she's got a tattoo. She's got an ancient, it's a Maori tattoo that she spent 20 years of her life deciding whether she would get it or not, because it's from old Maori culture. And then she decided she was going to do it. She was going to bring this part of her culture back. So very, very special to her. Nania Mahuta, I believe her name is. But the thing is actually they didn't look up her name, and they've been speaking about her all this time. So they also put a picture of Winston up behind her, a tattoo on his face also, making fun of her. And they were laughing at her, and they were calling her Chin Woman.
So you guys know Chin Woman.
Yeah.
Again, we still have to catch up on her name, which we
Yes.
promise to do every episode now.
Yes.
She is a politician in New Zealand.
He loves China.
She loves China. We're really disappointed with her decision to abandon the Western world in favor of China.
Sure.
She has a chin tattoo, not because she's a rapper,
No.
but in fact because
part of
she's
our culture.
Maori.
And they said, we don't know what her name is. We keep saying we're going to look it up, and we don't. And completely laid into her for this. What they're doing to you is a whole nother level. They are attacking a Uyghur girl, trying to show her hometown for not agreeing with them that you're being oppressed and somebody's out to try to kill you and destroy your culture. It is like the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. And one thing to keep in mind, though, is as much hate as you got from those two guys, and if they encouraged other people to do it, those kinds of people you don't have to worry about too much. But by you doing this in China, you're so much more safe. And this is a really big irony that a lot of people don't think about. Uyghur people overseas, speaking up for China, are in serious risk. It's very dangerous for them. There was a German Uyghur girl who spoke up when those, the accusations about the cotton farms were. She probably knows many family members who own, because when I was in Kashgar, I noticed many people had a small plot of land and they grow their own cotton. She knows who's going to be affected by this. So she spoke up against it. Then she got attacked. She got threatened. Somebody released her address online, and she had to remove her YouTube videos. There were some Uyghur people in the U.S., same thing. There was a Uyghur guy, second-generation Uyghur in Pakistan. He's had his Twitter account banned 3 or 4 times. So it's a weird environment where nobody gets to hear Uyghur voices unless they're agreeing with their narrative. There's a guy, I don't know if you know, do you know Jing Jing? Do you know James Palmer?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
so I think he
definitely.
used to work in China at some of the news agencies.
Beijing Palmer. Right?
Yeah, so he says there was a guy, an ethnic minority from Xinjiang, who reached out to him and said, "Listen, you've got this wrong. I'd like to invite you to Xinjiang, and you can come and see for yourself." And James Palmer blew up on him. He swore at him, told him to F off, you genocide denier and all this stuff, and completely blew up at him. And he says, so here's the thing with him. He says that he has so many people that agree, that there's so many Uyghur people that agree this is what's going on. But now you can see, now he gave you a public display of why that is, because he will only, and this is the same case for the entire world, they will only listen to Uyghur voices that agree with their propaganda. So when you come out, and now you're doing this from the safety of China, they can't do what they did to that girl in Germany. It just eats away at them. It angers them because you're not saying what they want. You're not supporting their fake propaganda. So that's just that's just a little bit of a context for what's going on in the background.
So, Sabira, I don't know when you saw those attacks from those two people and those anti-China people on Twitter, on YouTube. Were you afraid? Were you worried? Maybe were you think about maybe I shouldn't do this anymore?
Actually, not. I'm not worried about this at all. I think I should be like try harder to do this. Yeah, to continue to keep doing this. Yeah, and like 我可能会真的会一直做下去。他们的这些对新疆的污蔑，还是不管是对我的一个怎么样一个说法，都是我继续做下去的一个动力。我觉得是。
I don't know whether you saw those separatists, the Uyghur separatists who fled China and then created all this misinformation about China. I don't know, how do you feel about them, about what they said about your hometown? Do you want to say something to them?
No, because I think they don't worth it. Yeah, 他们不值得我去说一些什么，他们已经出卖了自己的家乡，已经出卖了中国，所以 yeah.
You know what's something ironic I want to add here about that is a lot of these people that you're talking about that you just spoke about, Jinjing, they go and they're funded by NED groups, the National Endowment for Democracy, American government funded. So there's an irony here. Here people are trying to say, Sabira, that you are funded by the Chinese government. They have no evidence of it, but even on the idea, even on the slight chance that you are, they attack you and say your voice is meaningless. We shouldn't listen to you because of this. And meanwhile, they're listening to the voices who are funded by the American government, who have a very, very clear reason to villainize China. They're going into a manic, panicked state about trying to keep up with China and trying to prevent China from making relationships around the world. They know that Xinjiang is an important part of the Belt and Road Initiative. They know that China's building relationships and growing stronger every day. And so there's the motive, there's the means, and they are deploying people who are funded by the US government. But the same people who don't want to listen to you because maybe you're funded by the Chinese government, they have no problem in listening to these other guys who are actually 100% confirmed to be funded by the US government. I just think there's something really funny about that.
They couldn't show a single proof, like solid proof, image or video of the people in concentration camps. All they have is the satellite images of random buildings in Xinjiang. Some are just like a schools. Actually just a random building with some fence. And the numbers of the people in concentration camps keep changing from 1 million to 2 million to 3 million. And like, remember, Daniel, like there's some accounts on Twitter, they just pull random videos on Douyin showing Uyghurs doing random stuff, daily activities to claim, well, their oppression. I remember this one woman couldn't see her daughter, so there's a fence in between the mother and the daughter. They were crying. The mother couldn't touch the girl, so one of the separatists saying the women in concentration camps couldn't see their kids made me so sad. But then we look it up on TikTok. The woman is a local CPC member working on front line during the pandemic, COVID pandemic in Xinjiang. The reason that she couldn't touch her daughter is because she's working the front line, wearing hazmat suit all the time. But there was a chance that she may be carrying the virus. So she was keeping the distance between herself and her kids. So she was crying. She couldn't see her kids for 2 months, but she didn't regret at all because she's serving the people. And she said it on her account. You can find out her description. You can find it on every video. So if what they claim is true, why they have to lie? Why they have to twist all those information?
Yeah, there was one guy who I interviewed, and I confronted him about that. And he says, yes, okay, all right, yeah, that maybe I shouldn't have posted that. And he says, I'm not going to do that again. And he even said he was doing some course on like critical thinking or something like that. I can't remember exactly what he said. And so he said he's not going to do that anymore. He does that now, but what they do, they've gotten smart. Now they cover up the Douyin ID so you can't go and find the original accounts.
Yeah.
This is what they do. So, I mean, people have to ask themselves, like, why, if this is so true, if you really believe this is happening, why is there so many lies weaved into it? Why is there no need to have evidence to say this is going on? Sabira's situation is exactly that. it looks like she's probably paid by the government because she's saying positive things about Xinjiang. There's no other way. There's no other possibility. We don't need any evidence, so now we're going to say that she's paid by the government because that's what people were doing. That's what people were doing. They were. I know there was one guy in California of anti-China YouTubers. So he's Uyghur. I don't know when he left China, but same thing. He just said outright, this is a government-paid account with no evidence. And he tried going after you too, Xinjiang, about your saying, oh, this is a state media connected person. And he's like flipping out about it. But then I looked through his history and he retweeted and he promoted Rushan Abbas, who is funded by the US government, who worked in Guantanamo Bay torture camps while working for a military industrial complex company that was also responsible for the abuses in Abu Ghraib, where they were torturing Muslims. It's like, what's going on here? Like the whole world is upside down, and they're like, and when and they also, there's an insult. There's a thing that people say all the time. It's like, why does CGTN and all these companies, why do they prop up foreigners so much? And I actually kind of agree with them. I think, more, you should have more locals. But look what happens. Look what happens when a local finally comes out. They didn't really mean that. When they said, we'd like to hear from some locals on the ground. No. They didn't mean that. What they meant to say is, please find us some locals on the ground that agree with our propaganda. Anybody else, we're going to attack and tell them to shut up. It's like, so you're not really here for the truth, guys. Like, let's be honest here.
So, Sabila, I'm wondering, what do you want to say when you see those misinformation, this smear about Xinjiang, about your hometown coming from the West? As a Uyghur born and raised in Xinjiang, what do you want to say?
Okay, because like I don't know where you hear those things or like see it in your own eyes. Yeah, like I don't say like please come to Xinjiang. I want to say is please check out my video. Yeah. I will just 就是我拍摄的就是我真实的我自己看到的东西。对，我不要求你们说你们来新疆看吧，自己看吧，你们肯定也没有时间来嘛，那你们多看看我的视频咯。对 ，Yeah.
They can.
Yeah,
They should go too, because a lot of people misunderstand. I was surprised how many foreigners think that it's very restrictive to go to Xinjiang. When I went, I booked my own flight, I booked my own hotel. I just, I didn't tell anybody I was going, and I just showed up. It's not like, so Tibet has more restrictions. You've got to apply for special permits and stuff like that. But Xinjiang is really, really open, or at least definitely more open than people imagine. That would be my suggestion, is like, obviously because of the pandemic, it's difficult to come. So I know that's why you're saying that. But when that's no longer an issue, people should just go for themselves. Do what I did and turn yourself into an idiot like I did,
But I don't know why,
looking for this stuff.
I don't know why a lot of people believe that foreigners cannot go to Xinjiang. And when they say, what? Like, I have friends just...
Like, you remember Jerry? He went there several times by plane, by train, by bicycle. Like any transportation, you can just go to Xinjiang. So I don't know where the misconception come from.
People just, they repeat a lie a certain number of times and people just start to believe it. It's the same thing about that people keep repeating about, oh, well, they didn't let journalists in, they didn't let delegates in, they didn't let these people in and stuff like that. It's like, no, they did. There's even journalists who went through training centers and things like that and had very negative things to say while they were on the ground. They could ask whatever they wanted and things like that, but they still twisted it. And it's something I talked about on my channel a little bit more, but they really just believed their narrative. And that's what I'll say to people also, is that investigate some of the claims and have a threshold, decide a threshold for yourself, because there's so many of these testimonies and so many of these things that I have debunked also. I said, this is like completely fake. Here's why. There's no way that this is real. There's a critical hole here. And people are like, okay, whatever. But there's still, 9,999 other entries in this victims database or something like that, which is filled with garbage. And I said, of course, you can't debunk all of them, but have a threshold where maybe you look into a certain number of cases, and after you've realized that there are at least 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 lies that you've found, either about the situation on the ground or about the narrative or about people pushing a story, get to a point where you're like, you know what? If this narrative is so filled with so many lies and so many liars, maybe there is something wrong with it. I mean, there's got to be something like, I don't know what to do, because the thing is people who have really made up their mind, they'll listen to Sabira, they'll listen to me or something like that, but they won't believe anything we have to say. They've already made up their mind. So just do whatever you've got to do to get yourself in a frame of mind to recognize how ridiculous some of these stories are. Take that as a first step. And then if you still decide that you still believe your original conclusion, great. But at least approach this topic from a place of honesty to begin with, at least once. You're doing the right thing, Sabira, to just focus on travel stuff and happy stuff. I'll take care of these political idiots because, there's so much garbage in terms of that, and it's unfortunate because, every place in the world has issues. Every place, there's no place that's perfect. I mean, especially with what Xinjiang went through before. But the conversation is nowhere near a level where we can have an honest conversation about this and learn from each other. Different societies face similar issues in terms of, ethnic harmony or all these different things. And there could be a really productive conversation going on, but they're way up here with these ridiculous claims that we're nowhere near being able to have an honest conversation about this. So if I got a little bit heated here, I'm sorry, guys, but
It's okay. So Sabila, don't worry about the attacks from those people. Don't worry about them because they have their own agenda. But you need to know that there are a lot of people supporting you, like us. People, especially outside Xinjiang, outside China, they really need to hear the voices of people like you to understand the culture of Uyghurs, to understand the everyday lives of Uyghurs. So they will have a proper understanding of what Uyghurs are like, what Xinjiang is like. So keep doing this. We're there for you.